Second review of the day. Let's go. So, I have finally seen Turning Red. It's been a week. I was supposed to watch it last weekend, but I couldn't. Like I said, I was out of town for a week, so I couldn't watch the movie because I wanted to wait to watch it with my family. And now I've seen it. I just finished watching it. Now I just want to say right off the bat, I loved this movie. I thought it was the best Pixar movie in years. This is probably the best Pixar. Did you hear that voice crack? This was the best Pixar movie since Coco. Let me tell you something. Lately, Pixar has been, they've been like this for the last like 10 years, but they've been hit and miss. I liked Coco. I liked Inside Out. I even liked Toy Story 4 a lot. Didn't care for Onward. Didn't really like Soul. I especially did not like Good Dinosaur. And I really didn't like Soul. I know a lot of people really love Soul and they thought it was great. I didn't like it at all. I thought it started out really good, but then he turned into a cat. And I know, it's like, that's his way of learning to appreciate life. Did not care for that movie. Didn't like it at all. But that's a video for another day. Probably never. But this movie, this was everything that I wanted Encanto to be. I liked Encanto a lot. I really enjoyed it. But I didn't think it was like amazing. I thought it was a cute movie. I just want to make it clear, I'm not a Disney adult. I don't go to Disneyland saying this is my happy place. I'm not that kind of person. But I just appreciate good storytelling. That makes you sound pretentious, but I just like good storytelling. It doesn't matter if it's for kids or for adults or for everybody. I like a story with a good story, character, and emotion. Those are the three things that you got to get with me, and I thought it did very well. This movie did great in all three levels. Like I said, I love this movie. I thought it was I think this is in my top like 5 Pixar movies. I thought this movie was amazing. And let's talk about some controversy. This is old news by this point, but I still think it's funny to talk about. So there was this review where he said something like, this movie is made for teenage girls, and I can't relate to this movie because I'm not a teenage girl. And like, this movie, if you're not a teenage girl and you don't act like the main character of this movie, you're not going to enjoy this movie. And he apologized for it, and everybody was like, you're dumb. I'm an 18-year-old male, and this is probably gonna make some people think this is probably gonna might be a little embarrassing to it. Nah, it's not embarrassing. I related to the main character of this movie. I feel like anybody, like people, I remember a lot of people were saying like, oh, the main characters that this movie, they're so cringe. It's like, yo, everybody when they were 13 was cringe. If I made YouTube videos that are thank God, no longer on this website anymore. I made YouTube videos when I was 13, and they were the worst videos you've ever seen in your entire life. I was a walking cringe compilation when I was 13. I related to this character a lot. I remember my friend group when we were 13. We were just like this, except instead of boy bands, we were talking about Marvel movies, and we were obsessed with those. You know what I mean? Like, I related to and I'm sure it's not hard for a lot of people to relate to this movie. Like, yeah, when I was that age, and even if you weren't like that when you were 13, there's still plenty of other stuff, like trying to live up to your family, trying to, like, just there's so much stuff in this movie that people can relate to. And even taking the relating part out of it, my favorite movies are like, I love Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I don't relate to a single character in that movie. I think they're all horrible people, except Knives. I don't relate to Scott Pilgrim. I think Scott Pilgrim's a whiny douchebag, but I still love that movie. You don't need to relate to characters to enjoy a movie. You know what I mean? If you relate to Norman Bates, and that's why you like American Psycho, like, don't talk to me. You know what I mean? If you relate to this movie, great. If you don't, that's cool too. But anyway, rant over. Now on to the actual movie. This movie looks really great. I'm not gonna lie, I did have some reservations at first because a lot of stuff in this movie, like there's a scene at the beginning where the dad is cooking, and the food looks real. Like, it looks like real food. And I was in awe. I was like, holy crap, that looks amazing. But the character designs look really like cartoony, way more cartoony than usual Pixar movies. And at first I was like, oh, it's kind of like Good Dinosaur, where it looks like Roger Rabbit. But the difference between this movie and Good Dinosaur in that department is Good Dinosaur, everything looked realistic except for the characters. The characters looked like cartoons, but everything else looked real. And it looked great, but at the same time, it just didn't look right. All the characters looked like Roger Rabbit. Like, it did not look good. Whereas in this movie, mostly, like, it's gonna be hard to explain, but like small items look realistic, like the food or the tables and stuff like that. But the actual backgrounds and the environments, they all mesh much better together with the characters than they did in Good Dinosaur, right? On to the story. This movie's about a young girl named May. I think that's her name. I call her May May because that's what her mom calls her. I don't think that's her real name. But May May, whenever her emotions get very high, she becomes a big red panda. And that's all you need to know. It's a coming of age story. It's like Lady Bird, but better. I'm just kidding. I thought Lady Bird was okay. But this movie, I think it is so funny. I think all four of the girls were hilarious, especially the Priya. Man, she cracked me up. She was hilarious throughout the movie. The mom, I thought, was a great character. Ming, she was amazing. Sandra Oh is becoming like one of my favorite actresses. I think she's amazing in like everything. I did not like the show Invincible. I actually want to make a video about why I don't like Invincible. I really don't like that show. But Sandra Oh is great in that show. Her character is the best character, the most interesting, and her performance is also the best. Sorry. I think I might make a video one day on why I don't like Invincible, because I really don't like that show. But this movie, I really, really enjoyed Sandra Oh in it. And I thought the dad, you know, he was pretty underutilized, but I still thought he was a really good character. He had one of the most emotional scenes in the movie. I love the band in this movie. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they never explain why their band is called Four Town when there's 5 of them. And I just thought that was hilarious. I'm like, you know, I think it'd be funnier if they just don't explain why, and I'm really glad they didn't, because I just think it's hilarious. It's funnier that way. This movie, and I thought the scene in the astral plane at the end when May finds her mom, but it's like a younger version of her mom. That scene was honestly probably the best movie scene I've seen this year. Honestly, it was so like I like was welling up a little bit in that. This is probably the most embarrassing video I've ever made, but I don't care. This movie's great. But I was actually like really getting into the emotion of that scene, and it was great. Man, there's really not a lot to say about this movie other than it's just everything about it is super well done. It's funny, it's emotional, it's got great characters, the animation looks amazing, and I'm not gonna lie, there's a scene there's a scene in this movie. I already spoiled it. Sorry, I forgot to say spoiler. The movie's been out for a week. You've already seen it, but at the end, when Ming became the big red panda and she was going towards the concert, I'm not joking, I felt more tension in that scene than I did in the entirety of X, which I saw earlier today. I'm not joking. Man, I just really loved this movie this whole time. It was such a delight, you know. Is the plot predictable? Yeah, I could predict everything, but that's not a bad thing sometimes, you know. Sometimes it's okay if it's a movie. It doesn't need to be LA Confidential, you know what I mean? This movie, and I don't want to hear any of you say, you're just praising this movie because it's a kid's movie, and, you know, like, listen, a movie about 4 13-year-old girls trying to raise money to go to a concert can be just as good as a really complex drama. You know what I mean? Like, if you do it right, I think any movie ever, the Emoji Movie, if you had the best writers on it, it could be an amazing movie. And that's how I feel with this. They took the concept and they made the best story they could out of it. I love this movie. I thought it was amazing. Like, it's just so it's so fast paced too. Usually kids movies are very fast paced, but this movie, like, I was never bored. I was always so like delighted and happy. And when I felt sad, I like the emotional scenes in this movie were actually, like, when she attacks that boy at his birthday party, like, I was genuine. Obviously in kids movies they always have that scene where there's a big fight before the third act, but in here I just was like, oh my god, like, it actually like really affected me. And the weird thing is that even though it's a cartoon, the characters were exaggerated and over the top, they felt like real people. And that was probably my favorite part of the best part of the movie to me, is how they made these characters who are so over the top and loud and fast. They made them feel like real people. Mei and Ming, they both feel like people I've met in real life, and I love that. Ming is such a great character. You know, she's the mom in the movie. She's such a great character. I can't praise this movie enough. I'm probably forgetting some other stuff. Go see this movie. You've probably already seen it. Honestly, I understand why they put this on Disney Plus, because Omicron and it's worse among children, but I loved this movie. See this movie and talk about why you love this movie, because this is top tier Pixar. And this is the first time I'm giving this out on this channel, but I'm giving this movie a 10 out of 10. I thought it was terrific. It's funny, it's emotional. I've already said this, but I don't care. I feel like I'm just repeating myself throughout this whole review, but I don't care, because this is a great movie. You know, anybody who grew up with Friends can relate to this movie. You know what I mean? It's just so great. It just made me really happy to watch it. And that's my review of Turning Red. Yeah, this is so far, this is my favorite movie of the year. And I really thought X was going to be my favorite movie of the year. Nah, this is awesome. In terms of how I'd rank it in like my Pixar ranking, because I actually did make a Pixar ranking. It's on a YouTube video out there. It's public. You can find it. It's going to be hard for you to find, but you can find it. But yeah, Pixar ranking, I'd probably put this above, like right in the same level as I'd put this on the same level as about WALL-E. WALL-E I like about as much as I like this movie. But man, I just fell in love with this movie. I thought the characters were great. I'm so glad that this movie is getting the praise that it deserves. This is what I wanted Encanto to be. I liked Encanto fine, but I thought it was going to be as good as this movie was. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say. Great movie. Great movie. Watch it.